Discover the incredible, heartwarming transformation of David Brown, an unexpected, life-changing journey of redemption and resilience. David Brown was a fixture in his small Midwestern town, known for his stained blue coveralls and a grease-smudged smile. At 35, he was the embodiment of hard work and dedication, a mechanic by trade and a devoted single father to his 8-year-old daughter, Lily. Their little home, a blend of worn-out furniture and laughter, was like a lighthouse in the stormy sea of economic hardship. People might have overlooked him, but his heart roared louder than the engines he fixed every day as the annual community festival approached. David felt a spark of hope igniting within him. He longed to showcase his passion for classic cars, a dream that had once lived only in the grooves of his mind. But just as he dared to entertain the thought of presenting his beautifully restored '67 Mustang, life dealt a cruel blow. He lost a job he relied on to make ends meet. Panic clawed at his chest. How would he afford to enter the festival? Could he possibly put his dreams aside once more for mere survival? Just then, Mr. Jenkins, a retired veteran and neighbor, saw the flicker of despair in David's eyes. "You have a gift, son," he said one evening while sharing a beer on the porch. "Don't let some tough times dim that flame. Enter the contest, David." With those words, Jenkins reminded him that the community spirited around each other. The words sunk in, hinting at a possibility of future where he could be more than just a mechanic. He could be a star. Then, just as hope bloomed, David's estranged brother, a polished businessman, rolled back into town with all the wealth and charm. Their relationship had soured long ago, marred by resentment over different paths in life. David felt a tightness in his chest, the weight of memories pressing on him like rusty gears. His brother's success felt like a mirror echoing every insecurity, every doubt David harbored about himself. As festival day drew near, David's internal battle intensified. The mounting judgment from the town's elite felt relentless, the kind that climbed into his mind uninvited. His thoughts raced. What if I fail? What will they think? But through it all, Lily's bright, trusting eyes filled with belief helped ease his fears. "You can do this, Daddy," she cheered, her excitement washing over him, sparking a wellspring of warmth amid the chaos. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. The morning of the festival arrived, radiant with possibility. Just as David stood at the threshold of the event stage, taking a deep breath, an unexpected incident rattled their world. Lily had fallen and scraped her knee amidst the lively crowd. Instead of panic, he felt a surge of purpose. He rushed to her side. As he cradled her in his arms, the crowd watched. In that moment of vulnerability, the spectators didn't see a mere mechanic. They saw a steadfast father whose love transcended socio-economic divides. At that moment, something shifted in the atmosphere. Could his struggles of acceptance finally take a turn? Could the event be his chance at redemption? With Lily's gaze shining up at him, and his brother watching from a distance, David felt the weight of choices pressing in on him like the push of a valve. What lay ahead was uncertain, filled with the promise of healing or the risk of failure. But one thing was clear. David Brown was ready to embrace it all. As David knelt, comforting Lily, a hush fell over the crowd. He could hear the whisper of the breeze, the distant laughter fading into a soft murmur. It felt as if the universe held its breath, and amid the tension, he made a silent promise to himself. He would not let fear determine his family's story. He would stand up, dust himself off, and face whatever came at him next. Lily sniffled as she wiped her tears on his shoulder. "Daddy, it hurts," she said, but then she tilted her head and smiled through her watery eyes. "But you're gonna show them how great the Mustang is, right?" Her faith in him wrapped around his heart like a warm hug, reviving his flagging spirit. David gently set her down and gave her a reassuring pat on the head. "I'll make sure it's something to remember," he said, the determination swelling within him. With Lily's minor injury bandaged up and her spirits lifted by a handful of cotton candy, David took a moment to observe the festival in full swing. He saw the bright banners fluttering in the wind and heard laughter ringing out as families enjoyed the festivities. It was a celebration of togetherness, a united front against the stresses of life. But his brother, Mark, stood separated from that joy, leaning against a sleek car that glistened in the sunlight. He looked sharp in a tailored suit, watching with an eyebrow raised. Amid the laughter, David felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Would Mark's presence be a blessing or a curse? Would he see David as a competitor, or simply a man still struggling to find his way? "Hey, you ready for your close-up?" Mark called out. The sarcasm dripped from his words like raindrops from a leaky roof. David bristled, then took a breath. He needed to stay focused. The festival was not just about him. It was about Lily. It was a chance to show her that dreams can come true starting with their Mustang. "Just watch me," David replied with a forced smile, feeling the heat of the moment seep through his skin. The sting of Mark's casual criticism was sharp, but he wouldn't let it define him. He turned back to Lily, whose eyes sparkled with excitement as she pointed towards the stage. The announcement echoed over the speakers, calling contestants to prepare their classic cars for viewing. David could feel the nervous energy vibrating within him, a mix of anticipation and self-doubt. He turned to Lily, who looked at him with unwavering faith. "Come on, let us show them what you've got," she cheered, her enthusiasm fading any lingering doubts. Hand in hand, they walked toward the Mustang, and as David stepped closer, he could see his dreams reflecting in the polished surface. This was the moment he had worked so hard for. He took a moment, running his hand lovingly over the hood of his car. Every dent, every scratch told a story of hard-won battles and countless hours spent with his daughter by his side. It was a testament to their journey together. Then, as David stepped back to admire his work, the crowd began to gather. Their whispers turned into applause, and for a moment, the world felt like it had shifted. But through the applause, he couldn't shake the feeling of Mark's scrutinizing gaze, the shadows of judgment swirling in his mind. As Lily stood beside him, beaming with pride, David faced the crowd, taking a deep breath. Could this be the beginning of something transformative? Could he emerge from the shadows of his doubts and into the light of acceptance not just for himself, but for his daughter as well? With the roaring of the crowd flooding his ears, David took a step towards the microphone, ready to share the story behind his beloved Mustang and maybe, just maybe, the story of himself. But as he opened his mouth to speak, a commotion erupted from the back of the crowd. What was happening now? The uncertainty crept back into his heart. What lay ahead? Would this festival become a page-turner in his life, or would it descend into chaos? The cacophony grew louder, drowning out David's voice before it could find its footing. The crowd shifted uneasily, eyes darting towards the source of the uproar. David's heart raced as he glanced at Lily, the fear evident on her small face. "Stay here," he said, squeezing her hand gently. She nodded, her grip tightening around his fingers. He stepped away from the Mustang, feeling its cool metal slip from his thoughts. The crowd was parting, and a figure emerged from the throng, a woman, her face flushed and eyes wild with urgency. She stumbled forward, momentarily lost in the chaos of figures, then spotted David. "Please, you have to help," she cried, her voice breaking. David's instincts kicked into overdrive. What happened? There's a kid. He fell near the Ferris wheel. "I think he is hurt." The words shot through David like an electric pulse. His heart dropped as he turned toward the colorful, spinning giant looming in the distance. "Lily, wait for me right here," he said, moving toward the panic. As he raced past booths selling treats and games, mingled laughter transformed into uneasy murmurs. His thoughts swirled. How serious was this? Will he reach the child in time? He pushed through the gathered crowd and arrived at the base of the Ferris wheel. There, where the carnival lights flickered, he saw a small boy sprawled on the ground, an older sibling kneeling beside him. The boy's face was scrunched up with pain, tears streaking down his cheeks. David knelt beside them, instinctively moving into action. "What happened?" he asked, his voice calm despite the tumult in his chest. "We were waiting in line and he tripped. I think he hurt his ankle," the older sibling replied, panic creeping into his voice. David gently lifted the boy's leg to inspect the ankle. It was swollen, a raw purple forming across his skin. "We need to get him some help," David declared, looking around for adults. In that moment, the crowd, previously a sea of onlookers, began to coalesce into helpful hands. A couple of parents stepped forward, ready to assist, their own children still hanging back, eyes wide. Amid the chaotic scene, David noticed something that brought a fleeting warmth. A young girl, holding a teddy bear, stepped closer to the injured boy, offering it to him like a peace offering. "Here, my bear will make you feel better," she said softly, her voice a gentle balm to the surrounding anxiety. The boy's tears paused as he grasped the stuffed animal. David felt a flicker of hope. In a world full of chaos and uncertainty, kindness still shone through. The emergency medical personnel arrived moments later, a team clad in bright vests. They took charge, moving swiftly and efficiently. "Can you clear the area, folks?" one of them called, ushering the crowd back. David stepped aside, watching as they carefully examined the boy and positioned him in a stretcher. The moment felt surreal, as though it was a scene pulled from a movie. All the intention and purpose he had felt a mere moment ago began to drain away. Was this why he had come to the festival, to find moments of connection and purpose? Lily's small hand slipped into his again, and he turned to see her standing wide-eyed, her mouth forming a small O. "Daddy, is he going to be okay?" David swallowed hard, scanning the crowd that had softly murmured their well wishes. "Yes, I think he will be okay," he reassured her, though uncertainty lingered in his chest. Together, they returned to the Mustang, where the excitement of the festival had resumed as if the chaos had never happened. Yet, beneath the surface, something had shifted. David felt more alive, more aware of vulnerability and connection. "Want to help me finish getting ready?" he asked Lily, who nodded eagerly. They knelt by the car together, memories of the boy mingled with the shine of the vintage hood. With each moment focused on their Mustang, David realized that this festival, this journey, was about more than just his car. It was about connection, resilience, and showing Lily how one small act can ripple out. Suddenly, from the corner of his eye, he noticed Mark stepping forward, the curl of a smile tugging at the corners of his lips. Was it admiration, or something else? Just as he met Mark's gaze, the festival's announcer took the stage. "We're excited to present the next round of participants. Let us see what they've got." David's pulse quickened again. Could he turn this chaotic day into something beautiful? The moment was here, and with it, a flicker of hope ignited in his heart. Would this be the time he truly found his footing? The announcer's voice rang through the air, clear and full of excitement. David could feel the tension in his muscles tighten as he stood beside the Mustang, an old friend now embodying his hopes and dreams. It had been years since he truly committed to something that mattered. Yet here he was, with Lily at his side, ready to show the world a slice of who he could be. Mark stepped closer, his eyes glinting with that familiar spark of challenge. "You ready for this?" he asked, a playful grin on his face. David felt a rush of competitive spirit. "You bet. Let us see if the Mustang can still turn heads." His smile waned as a fleeting thought crossed his mind. Did he still have it? The confidence? The ability to captivate not just with the car, but with who he was? He couldn't shake the uncertainty as he glanced back at Lily, her eyes shining with pride. She believed in him, and somehow that felt like enough. The announcer continued, rattling off names that echoed through the fairgrounds. Each name was met with cheers and applause, lifting the atmosphere. David Brown with his classic Mustang. The crowd began to murmur, and David stepped forward, the weight of every eye resting upon him as he approached the stage. He tried to center himself, but all those familiar nerves wormed their way into his thoughts. Could he still command attention? Did anyone even care? Then he remembered the boy by the Ferris wheel, the way fear faded with a simple act of kindness. Maybe today was not just about the car but about connection, about being present. He took a deep breath and stepped into the spotlight. "Hello, everyone." His voice wavered but steadied. "This is my Mustang. She's more than just a car. She represents a journey for me." Lily waved, as if she were the cheerleader he never knew he needed as he spoke about the restoration. How each dent had a story. He felt the crowd shift from one of silent spectators to engaged listeners. He poured himself into the words, sharing stories of road trips, late-night wrenching sessions, and laughter shared on family outings. Each account turned more personal, peeling back the layer of a man who was finding himself again as he glanced up. He was struck with the sight of young faces in the crowd. They were captivated. Mothers held their children up, swaying them to see better. A small group of teens leaned forward, taking it all in. For the first time in years, he felt the thrill of connection swell in his chest. Feeling emboldened, David finished strong. This car is about memories, about resilience. Just like life, if you put in the effort, you can create something beautiful. Wild applause erupted, lifting his spirit. David felt the warmth radiating from the crowd, a rush he hadn't expected. It was more than he'd hoped for. It was validation. As he returned to Lily, she threw her arms around him, beaming. "You were amazing, Daddy." "Thanks, kiddo," he said, hugging her tight. In that moment, all the worry and fear faded. He had shown them not just the Mustang but a glimpse of himself, vulnerable yet strong. Suddenly, Mark approached, looking genuinely impressed. "You had him eating out of your hand. Good job, man." David felt a swell of camaraderie, strengthening the bond between them. But just then, a loud bang erupted from behind the stage, where the fireworks display was set to start. Smoke curled up into the sky, and the crowd's energy shifted again, a potent mix of excitement and confusion. "David." Lily tugged on his sleeve, her excitement laced with worry. "What was that?" He turned to look, but the transition from celebration to uncertainty was immediate. Before he could process it, a loud voice cut through the noise, calling for calm but infused with an urgency that sent a ripple of unease through the crowd. David's heart skipped as he scanned the faces, a familiar sense of dread taking hold. What was happening now? Just like that, the festival's joy seemed to hang by a thread, and David knew this wasn't over. The day was about to take another unexpected turn. The crowd murmured, a wave of uncertainty rippling through them. David's heart raced. Was it a simple fireworks malfunction or something more alarming? He strained to see more, squinting through the haze of smoke that slowly crept over the stage area. "Everyone, remain calm." The voice boomed again, but it struggled to penetrate the growing anxiety. Faces shifted from cheer to concern, and David felt his daughter's grip tighten on his arm. He knelt down to her level, forcing a reassuring smile. "It's okay, Lily. Just a little bump in the celebration." Yet he could feel the tremor of anxiety pooling in his own stomach. A figure nearby, a concerned mother cradling her little boy, whispered to her friend, "What if it's something serious?" David's ears pricked up at those words. He turned his attention back to the stage where a flurry of activity began to unfold. Emergency personnel with walkie-talkies sped past, their expressions grave. His pulse quickened. "Lily, stay by me," he instructed, keeping his body angled protectively in front of her. People began to shuffle, uncertainty prompting some to seek exits, while others simply peered over shoulders to catch sight of what was happening. David's thoughts raced. This day was supposed to be a celebration, a moment of reclaiming who he was. Instead, it threatened to unravel before him. Suddenly, a young man burst through the chaos, yelling for clarity. "What's going on? Are we safe?" The demand hung in the air, ironically echoing the fear that had just begun to set in. "Stay together," shouted a voice from the stage, and David instinctively took Lilia's hand, half leading her and half keeping her close. Just then, a loud crash resonated from behind the stage, sending a fresh wave of panic through the crowd. David's heart stuttered. He didn't want to frighten her, but a foreboding sense of doom washed over him. Was everyone going to be all right? "Daddy, I'm scared." Lily's voice trembled. Guilt surged through him. He should have protected her from this. "Hey." David crouched beside her, fighting to sound calm amidst the turmoil. "I need you to be brave for me. Can you do that?" Her small head bobbed, eyes wide but trusting. A flicker of determination crossed her face, and he admired that. It reminded him of himself once a long time ago. There was something deep within him that urged him to be a pillar right now. "Let us just stick together, okay?" They managed to inch closer to the side of the stage, the tension in the air palpable. More people moved about in hurried caution, a whisper of ominous dread spiraling among them. Ahead, the emergency workers had dropped into action. "What's happening?" Mark appeared beside David, a look of concern shadowing his features. "Not sure," David admitted, confusion swirling in his mind. "But we need to make sure everyone is all right." As if on cue, a commotion broke out near the entrance, where groups began to congregate like stranded ships at sea. A voice rang out over the cacophony, a frantic call for help mixed with shouting commands. David took a deep breath and made a quick decision. "We should see if anyone needs us." He looked down at Lily, searching for any sign of anxiety, but she nodded, her little hand gripping his tightly with determination ignited within him. David steered them forward. He was no longer just a man hoping to reclaim his past, but a father ready to protect, ready to serve. As they drew closer to the entrance, David spotted a young woman struggling to comfort her child. Something in her eyes mirrored his own fears, a fear he had been living with for years, that things could spiral out of control in an instant. He broke away from Lily and approached. "Hey, you okay?" David asked gently, sensing her distress. "Not really," she admitted, wiping her eyes. "Let us get you both to safety." And just as he turned to lead them to the side, the ground trembled beneath him in a series of heavy thuds, as though the earth itself was echoing the panic of the crowd. This crisis was far from over. There were layers of confusion to untangle. The day he thought would chart a course back to himself had become a fight for calm in chaos. As he steadied his breath, David felt something even deeper. A defining moment was unraveling before him, one that promised to stretch his heart and resolve to their limits. What would they face next? Would they come out stronger on the other side? Or would the loss of control consume them? The answers remained just out of reach, as uncertainty wrapped around them like a shroud. The ground shook again, a deep rumble that felt like a warning. David's breath quickened, and he instinctively turned back to Lily. The look in her eyes said it all. Fear had seeped into her innocent soul. He crouched down again, placing both hands gently on her shoulders. "Lily, listen to me. You're safe. I promise I won't let anything happen to you," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. The crowd surged around them, faces twisting in panic and uncertainty. That moment, so simple yet profound, anchored him. Lily's trust was a lifeline amidst the maelstrom. "Stay close, okay?" She nodded tightly, still holding his hand like it was a shield against terror. Together, they edged closer to the emergency exit, but the crush of bodies made it feel like climbing through a raging river, each wave threatening to pull them under. David's ears buzzed with the frantic calls for help that peppered the air. "We need to evacuate. Move towards the exits," a voice cried, blending into the sounds of alarm. Each order sent tremors down David's spine. What was happening? It was just a fireworks show. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. As they finally broke through the crowd, David turned, scanning for the young mother and her child. He saw them still huddled together, fear etched into their features. "Hey!" David waved frantically. "This way." They glanced up, momentarily confused, but then seemed to remember the urgency of the situation. He gestured for them to follow as he led Lily and the mother towards the edge of the chaos. The din around them roared louder, a cacophony of shouts and cries that underscored the weight of what they were facing. The moment they reached the outer fringes of the event area, a shadow passed overhead. David looked up, heart pounding. A helicopter? The sound of the blades thumped through him. He turned to the mother, her face pale, and they shared a look of fleeting understanding that whatever had sparked this panic was substantial. "Let us go," David urged, moving towards a small clearing, where a few more families had gathered. "We can regroup here." "Mommy?" Lily whimpered, glancing back towards the chaos. "It's okay, sweetheart, just for a moment, all right? Stay with us." He reassured her but could feel his own unease creeping back. His instincts nagged at him. What if this wasn't just an accident? The group gathered around, exchanging murmured fears and thoughts. Parents checked on kids while concerned glances were cast toward the stage. David could see first aid stations being set up. Anxiety bubbled in his chest. "We need to help," he stated, his mind racing through options. "But we're scared." David, the young mother, eyes wide, voiced what they all felt. His heart sank, knowing the fight in him couldn't hide behind fear. "I know, but we can't just stand here. What if someone needs us?" With that resolve, David stepped forward, finding a spark of courage. The crowd surged around them, and he could feel the urgency pulse through the air. Together, they organized a small group, creating a makeshift line to help guide people towards safety. "Just follow us. Keep moving," David shouted. Each time someone turned towards him, their grateful faces gave him strength. This was his chance to not just protect Lily but contribute together. They were making a difference. The seconds stretched as they worked, moving people closer to the safe zone. But just as hope began to sharpen, a series of sharp cracking sounds erupted, freezing them in place. David's breath hung in his throat. What was that? He turned to the group, his face taut with urgency. "Stay here, please," he urged, his heart racing. "I'll check it out." He moved away slowly, with Lily grasping at his shirt. Something told him this moment would reshape everything they thought they knew about safety and love if only they could forge through it. Would they unravel or rise together? David wasn't sure of his own answer, but he was determined to find out. The noise around them intensified, every minute crack and shout intertwining with David's racing heartbeat. He felt the weight of Lily's tiny fingers clutching his shirt, her breath quickening in sync with his own. With one last look back, he forced himself into the crowd where shadows loomed ominously, their shapes flickering like ghosts against the chaos. The air was thick with panic, faces blurred together, a mix of terror and confusion. David squeezed through, weaving around frantic parents and lost children. He could feel the relentless pull of fear around him, pressing against his chest like a vice. Just ahead, a group of people stood frozen, looking toward the stage. "Hey!" David called, but his voice was swallowed by the tumult. He edged closer, trying to gauge the situation. It was harder to focus with the adrenaline coursing through his veins. A sudden flash lit the sky. Was it another firework? No, the sound was different, sharper. It echoed like gunfire, reverberating through the very core of his being. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd, and he could feel a shift in energy, a wave of dread washing over them. David's instincts screamed at him to retreat, to protect Lily, but a small voice in his heart urged him forward. He spotted a young boy, no more than 8, trembling alone at the edge of the group. David instinctively felt the boy's fear. It mirrored Lily's. Without thinking, he reached out to him. "Hey, bud, where's your mom?" David crouched down, trying to meet the boy's frightened gaze. "Over there." The boy pointed, shaking. "I can't find her." "Okay, let us go together." David took his hand, feeling a flicker of hope ignite within him. This wasn't just about Lily anymore. It was about every child in that crowd. Each person mattered, and he couldn't turn his back on anyone. They moved deeper into the crowd, and the sounds of distress pressed in on them. Frantic screams, the thud of feet on the pavement, the whir of helicopters cutting through the night. David felt each contraction of panic, but the grip of the boy's hand fueled his bravery. They rounded a group of people who were blocking the way, and there she was, the mother, wide-eyed and desperate. With a quick tug, David pulled the boy to her. "I found him." He could see the palpable relief spread across her face, softening the terror that had etched itself there moments before. "Thank you," she cried, wrapping her arms around her child. David felt a surge of warmth. For that split second, Amidst the chaos, he had made a difference. But he couldn't linger. "We need to keep moving," he urged as he felt the rumble of footsteps behind them. The crowd was shifting, and David knew they couldn't stay too long. Lily's voice crept up softly beside him. "David, what is happening?" He focused on her, the innocent trust in her eyes cutting through the noise. "I don't know, sweetheart, but we're going to be okay," he said, though the uncertainty unsettled his heart. They began moving once more, forcing their way towards the barricade marking the area marked for safety. Each step felt monumental, a heartbeat hammering against the fear enveloping them. As they broke free at last, gasping for air like a phoenix rising from ashes, a new sound caught his attention, a siren wailing in the distance, eerily close. "What is that?" Lily whispered, but before he could respond, something caught his peripheral vision, a flash of light bouncing off the walls behind them, igniting the air with a sense of impending doom. David's heart plummeted. "Stay here," he called to the group, instinctively reaching for Lily. He turned back, eyes narrowing on the flickers that spread through the crowd like wildfire. His gut told him they were still in danger. What would happen next? Would they find a way to safety? Or was the worst yet to come? David's breath hitched in his throat as he braced himself for what lay ahead. He had to keep Lily safe no matter the cost. But as the chaotic echoes of the night persisted around him, one thought reverberated louder than the rest. He had to choose between running or facing the truth head-on. David's mind raced. He felt time slow, each second stretching like a rubber band about to snap. The flickering lights behind him pulsed with danger, a stark reminder that they were far from safe. In that moment, he couldn't think of anything except keeping Lily close and finding a way out of the madness. "Hold my hand tight, okay?" he instructed as he scanned the area. The terrified faces around him were a blur, but there was one thing he was sure of. They couldn't stay in the open. With a firm grip on her small hand, he pulled her in, moving sideways into a narrow alley between two stalls. It was dimly lit and felt like stepping into another world. One moment of peace amid the storm. David took a deep breath and turned to Lily, kneeling down to look her in the eye. "Listen, sweetheart," he said, his voice steady but quiet. "We're gonna stay here for just a moment, all right? Can you be brave for me?" Lily nodded, her wide eyes shimmering with trust. That moment made his heart swell. He had to be strong not just for her, but for all of them. If he could shelter even one innocent soul in this chaos, he would do it without hesitation. The sounds outside the alley were muffled but still chaotic screams mixed with worried shouts. Somewhere in the back of his mind, David knew he had to stay calm. He took a moment to collect his thoughts. They could join the frantic rush of the crowd, or he could find a more strategic way to safety. David listened to the voices outside. He focused on gathering every ounce of courage he had. "Can you whisper a story or sing a song?" he suggested, trying to distract her from the commotion. "Something that makes you happy?" It was a silly request, but it helped calm his racing heart. Lily started to hum the tune of her favorite song. The sweet notes broke through the tension around them, and for a fleeting moment, it felt like a shield against the chaos. As the sound echoed softly in the dim alley, a sense of hope began to flicker in David's chest. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the crowd at the alley's entrance, a woman with wild eyes caught between fear and determination. "Please, is anyone in there?" she gasped, her voice cracking. "I can't find my daughter." Drawing in a breath, David felt the familiar pull of responsibility. He stepped out to her, heart pounding. "What does she look like?" he asked urgently, hoping this woman hadn't lost a daughter in this madness like he once almost did with Lily. "She has 6. She has blonde hair. She is wearing a pink dress." The woman's eyes were wild, filled with the rawness of desperate love. "Take a second. Let us look for her together," David said, motioning for her to join them in the relative safety of the shadows. As they stepped back into the alley, Lily watched the woman with curious eyes, sharing a silent understanding of the fear and hope that hung in the air. The two adults quickly formed a plan. They could make their way through the side streets, keeping low and moving fast. But just as David was about to reach for Lily's hand again, A loud explosion reverberated through the streets. The ground beneath them shook, sending David tumbling to the floor, scrambling to protect Lily from the debris and chaos. "Stay close," David shouted, adrenaline pumping through his veins. But as he looked around, panic ripped through him. The alley was narrowing, and shadows were closing in. It wasn't just about making it to safety anymore. It was about facing the truth of what was still happening outside. "David!" Lily's voice squeaked in fear, pulling him back to the only reality that mattered. He grasped her hand, desperation coursing through him, and they pushed forward again. But now he was acutely aware that whatever lay beyond was not just chaos, it was breaking down walls, demanding that they leave the safety of their heart and face the uncertainty ahead. What awaited them as they left their hiding place? Would they emerge to find hope or something far worse? The night was dark, and uncertainty loomed ahead like a storm cloud, ready to unleash its fury. David crouched low, heart hammering against his chest. The dark alley felt haunting, its shadows creeping closer, inviting dread. "We have to move," he whispered to the woman beside him, urgency threading through his voice. She nodded, her breath unsteady, eyes darting to the entrance like a frightened rabbit. "Where is she?" the woman murmured, straining to hear over the cacophony outside. David didn't have answers, only a determination as fierce as the fear gnawing at him. With a swift squeeze of Lily's hand, he signaled for her to follow as he led the way deeper into the shadows. As they maneuvered through the alley, David quickly scanned their surroundings. The faint glow of a streetlight flickered ominously, casting elongated shadows that seemed to dance nervously against the brick walls. He stepped carefully, his instincts on high alert, aware that each noise could mean danger. They were trapped in a nightmare, but he couldn't let fear consume him. Not while Lily was holding his hand. "David?" Lily's quivering voice broke through the tense air, prompting him to turn and face her. "What's happening? Where are we going?" Her wide eyes glistened with unshed tears, a reflection of his own inner turmoil. "Listen, sweetie. We're going to find a way to safety. Promise." He forced a reassuring smile, though it felt foreign, half-formed on his lips. The truth was, he didn't know where they would end up, but they had to keep moving. The woman beside him spoke, her voice steadier now. "We stay together. It's just around the corner. I can feel it." The determination in her gaze inspired David. He could see hope starting to flicker in the gloom. With a swift nod, he took the lead again, moving cautiously. They turned the corner into another narrow passage between buildings, where the chaos outside felt muted but the tension remained thick. David could feel the weight of the moment, as if every step was crushing him under its significance. "Mom!" a small voice called, breaking through the haze. David's heart raced. He turned, eyes scanning for the blonde figure still entangled in his mind. The little girl in the pink dress. "It can't be." The woman took a step forward, recognition and longing etched on her face. "Maya!" she shouted again, desperation flipping her voice. "Mommy!" The voice came again, small yet filled with relief. Their eyes widened as a child emerged from behind a trash bin, her face tear-stained yet radiant with hope. In an instant, the woman raced forward, embracing her daughter tightly. "Oh, my sweet girl!" Tears streamed down her cheeks as she wrapped her arms around Maya, who buried her face in her mother's shoulder, sobbing with relief. Lily watched wide-eyed, and seeing this poignant reunion ignited something deep within David. He felt his own loss, the fear of what could have been. "We're gonna get through this," he murmured, more to himself than anyone else. He took a deep breath and grasped Lily's hand tighter. "Let us keep going, okay?" She nodded, looking at the mother and daughter with a mix of admiration and empathy that made his heart swell as he moved forward. Their path illuminated by the dust particles dancing in the weak light. Sounds of the chaos grew louder again, shouts, explosions, a piercing siren. David pressed on, the urgency in his heart intensifying. Each step felt like a leap across a chasm of fear, drawing him further into the darkness but also into possibility. Opening the alleyway, they stepped into the street, and he realized the night was alive, frantic shadows everywhere. He glanced back, noting Maya and her mother finding a refuge in one another. What about him and Lily? As they crossed past the dark threshold, he felt that old familiar ache of uncertainty. But this time, it held a different promise, an unyielding resolve to protect what mattered most. David! Lily's voice squeaked once more, this time pulling him back from his thoughts. He turned to see something darting between the stalls ahead. Look! He squinted through the dim light. Something glimmered, hope? Or another mirage? Without thinking further, he took Lily's hand and ran toward the light, heart pounding fiercely against the chaos swirling around them. Would this glimmer lead them to safety or into the grip of darker dangers? As they pressed forward, David couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was awaiting them would shift everything they thought they knew about the night, about them. Rushing toward the beacon of light, David felt adrenaline course through him. Each step propelled him with a mix of dread and hope. Lily's small hand clutched his tightly, her trust fueling his determination. What lay ahead could change everything. The light flickered and pulsed, brighter than anything they had seen since the chaos erupted. As they neared, David's heart raced. Could this be the safety they were desperately seeking? The rumble of uncertainty gripped him, but a stubborn flicker of resolve kept him moving forward. They emerged into an open area, dimly lit but buzzing with activity. Emergency lights flashed in the distance, and medical professionals tended to frantic families scattered across the space. Over here, this way, shouted one of the responders, waving for people to guide them to safety. It was a sight both terrifying and oddly reassuring, the first signs of order amidst chaos. Look, Daddy! Lily pointed, her eyes brightening at the sight of a makeshift triage station. People were registering, their faces lined with worry but painted with relief. That familiar warmth spread through David's heart. A place to breathe, a path to safety. They were almost there. He pulled Lily toward the triage area, and as they approached, they were flooded with calm. An attendant noticed them, her voice soft and welcoming. Are you two all right? Have you been hurt? David took a deep breath, forcing the fear to the back of his mind. We're okay, he replied. Just looking for safety. Lily squeezed his hand, her innocence a radiant beacon amidst all the despair. Can we stay here, Daddy? She asked, eyes wide and earnest. Yes, kiddo, we can stay, he assured her, feeling the tension ease just a bit. As they joined a growing group by the triage area, David allowed himself to finally breathe again. Look, Lily gasped, pointing across the makeshift safety area to the reunion unfolding before them. A little boy, one they had seen in the chaos, was cradled in his mother's arms amidst tears of relief. The rawness of that moment struck David. This chaos had torn them apart but helped them reunite, and it ignited something deep within him. See that, honey? That's what it's all about, helping each other, he murmured to Lily, pride swelling in his chest. Just then, Mark appeared, glancing relieved and a bit wrinkled in his tailored suit. David, he called, his voice slicing through the cacophony. I had to find you. I wasn't sure if you and Lily were okay. In that moment, shock swept over David. The brother who had once scorned him was now searching for him in the chaos. We're safe, David assured, the words carrying an unfamiliar weight. This time, he thought of the family he had, both of them wrapped in love, juxtaposed against the world outside filled with uncertainty. Mark stepped closer, and for the first time David sensed a shift. I was scared. I didn't want to lose you, Mark admitted quietly. A delicate thread formed between them in that moment. Years of hurt and anger began to weave back together. David's heart softened. Maybe this was not just about them but an opportunity for healing. We're still here, bro. We can fix this, but we have to work on it together. Mark nodded, a flicker of gratitude sparking in his eyes. Their fragile bond, re-establishing itself amid chaos, felt like a victory. Give me a moment with her while I register you both. Mark motioned toward Lily, who grinned up at him like it was the most natural thing, her innocence ready to bridge gaps between the brothers. As they stood there together, David reveled in the warmth of reconnection. The chaos began to fade. They spoke, support echoed among the caregivers tending to families. They shared stories, the pain of the night transformed into an anchor. They embraced laughter, joy in tiny moments of reunification that flourished amidst uncertainty. David glanced down at Lily. Remember how the day had unraveled and how it had sparked an unexpected salvation. Her face radiated hope, and in that simple smile, he recognized something profound. Their connections were stronger than the chaos that threatened to pull them apart. As the horizon began to lighten, a quiet strength settled over him. David Brown, the mechanic, the father, had not only reclaimed his purpose but had embraced the unity of family. Resilience was their theme now. His heart echoed with newfound authenticity, and he knew come what may they would weather it together. As the dawn began to break, mingling with the remnants of fear and chaos, everything was clear now. They were not alone. They were family, bound by love and experience. David felt the warmth of transformation wrap around them. Something beautiful indeed was born from the ashes of this night. And as the first rays of sunlight broke over the horizon, he turned to Lily and Mark, heart full and filled with faith. Let us go home. Now, if you've made it this far, this is your moment to show support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire and uplift. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread these incredible transformations. Comment down below your reactions and feelings about this ending. Let your voice be heard. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this story of resilience and redemption. Your support means everything. Let us build this community together.